Welcome to the 101 Dev Update. With me today, I have, most of you should know from Ergo Chats, Cafe Bedouin. How you doing, Cafe?
Doing pretty good. How's everyone out there doing?
We're doing all right. We're doing all right. It's kind of cold where I am here today, up in New York State. We had a little flurry of snow, but we're hanging in there at I think like 15-degree temperatures. So not terrible. You can see I'm all bulked up in my sweatshirt today to keep warm. How about you?
Yeah. Did you have to do any shoveling?
You know what? My father-in-law and mother-in-law live with us, and he gets up right at 7 o'clock and shovels and snow blows the driveway. So
put him to work.
It's absolutely fantastic. You got it. You got it.
Sounds great.
So Cafe. So I called you up yesterday to try to bug you to be on the dev update here, because I think a lot of people that meddle or interact with Ergo don't go potentially as deep as you do or analytical as you do with the things that you do. So I thought it'd be great for people to hear specifically about sigUSD, sigRSV for starters, how it works, some misconceptions on that whole matter, and the sort. So let's start by digging in. If you could explain to people what sigRSV is, what sigUSD is, what's the purpose, what's the relation between the two, and how that works, just as a quick little intro.
Yeah, sure. So sigUSD is like the first stable coin that's on Ergo, and it has two pieces to it. You have the sigUSD side, which is basically a stable store of value. So if you want something that's just, like dollars, like you keep in your bank account, you buy sigUSD, and there's a fee to do that. It's like 2%, and then there's a developer fee depending on which website you use and what the reserves are and so forth about getting it. So that's straightforward to understand. It's dollars. On the other side, you have sigRSV, which is a lot more complicated. But basically, what it does is it provides a reserve that backs the dollars that you get using Erg. So typically what you want to do is you want to have at least 4 times the amount of the value of Erg supporting each dollar. So that way, with the fluctuation of cryptocurrency prices, you have like a stable, something that's backing to, multiples of what the amount of dollars that are out there. And then in exchange for that, you get, these reserve tokens. And people think that, oh, well, this is just a long on the price of Erg, and that's not really how it works. So, let's use an example. So right now, last time when I checked it today, there was a little bit over 400,000 sigUSD in the minted, and then for sigRSV, just a little bit under 3 billion sigRSV. Price was 125. And in the reserves was 1,546,131 Erg that's in the reserves. And so that's that 546,131 is what is supporting the sigUSD price of $402,000. So that's obviously
so almost 4 times right there.
Yeah, well, yeah, the current reserve percentage is that. So that's what you get. You have what the current value of Erg is at $1.25, that would be 478% of what is minted for sigUSD. So what that does is it gives the sigUSD people confidence to say that, hey, my sigUSD is always going to be worth $1, because as the market fluctuates, there's a lot more reserves there waiting there, and the only way that it breaks is if the price of Erg just goes so far down that you don't have enough reserves to back. But it's also kind of like there's a game that's being played, because as the reserve is, as the price goes down, people tend to buy the reserve because they want to make they think it's a favorable position, so that when a price goes back up, they'll make Erg. But in order to understand how that works, you kind of have to understand what happens with sigRSV. So let's assume that everything is the same as what it is right now, what I told you. So 400,000 sigUSD, about 3 billion sigRSV, a price of 125, and the reserves are what I just told you, right? Now, let's imagine it's a year from now and the price has gone up an order of magnitude. So today it's 1.25, and let's imagine that the price went up to 12.50. But let's imagine that today we went ahead and took the erg that we have, and we turned it into sigRSV. And let's say that we have 1,000 erg to do that. So we could buy 2.4 million sigRSV today. That would cost us roughly, like 1,015 erg to do that. And so let's say that a year from now the price went up to 1,250. And we're only looking at price. Nothing else changed. So it went from $1.20.
No, nobody else entered sigRSV to the pool.
Yeah, let's just assume everything. Like you want to cut down your variables, because the variables is what makes this very complicated. So in order to understand it, you want to just look at one piece at a time. And so how does price affect what you get back? And so if you were to cash out at $1,250, you would redeem about 1,228 erg, give or take. It's you have fees that you have to pay through the interface and so whatnot. So let's just call it 1,200. So you basically, in that transaction, you made roughly about 200 erg when the price went from $1.25 to $12.50. So that's just the effective price, and that has to do with how much erg is currently, how much has been minted of sigUSD, how much erg is sitting in the reserve, and that's what you get if you hold everything the same, right? Now, let's imagine that during the course of it riding up to $12.50, that the sigUSD was minted in twice as much sigUSD as there's currently. So let's say it went from 400,000 to 800,000, right? And then you have to figure out, well, what's the average price that it was minted at? So, there's going to be different prices as it goes up. But let's say the average price is $5 so that we can do the math and it's easy, right? So if we do that and it's just double what the current, how much there currently is of sigUSD and it's minted at $5, we get 1268. So we get 40 more erg for the amount of increase in sigUSD. And so, okay, price went up an order of magnitude, and that was 200. And then when you're in when you add this additional sigUSD, you get an additional 40 erg, right? And so let's go and do the same exercise and say, well, what happens if it went 5 times as much? Can
I pause here for a sec? When you say that sigUSD went up to $5 and people are minting more sigUSD, that means they're exchanging ergs for sigUSD?
Right. So
okay.
Let's say
sigUSD is out in the ecosystem, and erg is in the reserve tank right there.
Right. You bought. So let's say that you bought your. People were buying their erg for $1.25 just like you, but they kept it as erg. And then when it got to $5, they're thinking, hey, I want a stable store of value. My stuff just went up, 4 times. So I want to save. I want to get, take profits.
Right, because you're putting in less erg to buy more sigUSD, to mint more sigUSD at that point.
That's right. Yeah. But the thing is that now you've locked it in because the price of erg has gone up, and now you've locked it in, and so that way that you have that. Like I remember Joe had talked about in a previous thing about the I think he called it the Scarface index. So he's like, hey, if you find that your erg went from like $1 at $1.25 and then it goes up to 50, if it goes 40 times, you're getting drug dealer returns. So probably a good idea to turn that into cash, or at least take some profits, or at least get your initial investment out, right? So that way you don't lose money, because at some point that's going to turn on you, but you're getting these fantastic returns. So you might as well solidify that and hold that in a stable store of value, which is what sigUSD does for you, right? So, so this brings us back to the sigRSV. So as it's going up, and you start at 125 and you're going up to 1250. Every dollar, every $2, people are minting sigUSD as it goes up, because you're able to mint more, right? And then another feature of this is also as the sigUSD gets more use cases, you get the Paideia. Am I pronouncing that right? Paideia?
Paideia.
Yeah, Paideia. So if you're using something like that where it has an actual real use case, or you're buying mixed cards, or you have some other thing that it's actually tied into, this is going to make a demand for sigUSD, or people are trying to pay developers. They're not going to pay an erg because they don't want to have to do the up and down. So they're going to have they want a sigUSD. So more if it's going to get minted, but you have to have enough slack in the system where people can mint more, because there's a limit. You can only, after a certain point, you can't mint anymore once it gets that 400% reserve level. So as the price gets up, people can mint more. They do. And that means that there's more money in the reserve. And that means that the people that have sigRSD have incentive to get out. to exchange their sigRSV for Erg because, instead of having 1,000, you spent 1,000 to get it, you now have 1,200 when the price goes up by an order of magnitude to 1,250. So you're going to think, okay, should I keep in? Is it going to keep going up? And so there's it's this kind of, initially the way that people think about it is it's, one of it is a long and a leveraged long, and on the other side is a short, right? That's the original idea. But as it gets more use case, you're going to see more sigUSD, minted and lower levels as it keeps going up. Because if it goes to 100 and everyone's minted at like $10, then there's a much bigger differential between the average minted price of sigUSD to what the current price is. And that's where all the value for the sigRSV holder comes in, right? So just to illustrate like what we were going off of, we said, okay, if it goes up to an order of magnitude to price, you get another 200 ERG, right? But if the sigUSD gets in there, then we get an additional 40 on top, right? And then if it goes to 5 times, then we're getting 1,385. If we do 5 times the amount of sigUSD, also average minting at $5 and still at $12.50, right? And then if you take that same 5 and you say, okay, let's double the price, what happens then? You get up to $14.50, right? So it really depends. Price is a factor, but price is a factor relative to the amount of sigUSD that is minted and the average minting price for sigUSD. When it, for the entire, how much of it has been minted and what's the differential between what was the price when all this was minted versus what is the price now. That's where all the value for the sigRSV holder comes in. So it is a leveraged long, but it's a leveraged long on the market cap for sigUSD, how much of it has actually been minted, what it was the price of it when it was minted, because that would determine how big the reserves are. And then your sigRSV is a claim on that reserve. And so the bigger it is, the more people do transactions and whatnot, there's a 2% fee that goes into the reserve that you also get a part of. But, when you're doing the calculation, I mean, it's a really small amount. So I wouldn't really sweat that part. But the main idea is that, hey, if it goes up an order of magnitude, you're going to get an additional, 200 ERG on top of what you would have had if you didn't have, if you just held regular ERG. But it's dependent on all these features of how much sigUSD is minted, what was the price that it was minted at, and how is that different than the current price. Those are the 3 variables that are kind of important as to what you can actually pull out of it when you're ready to to get rid of your or to exchange your sigRSV for regular ERG or for sigUSD for that matter.
And you're also competing against the multitude of people who also have that much sigRSV in there to dump it. It's essentially a first in, first out game as far as that goes.
Well, that's the argument that, initially I think that was the case. But as you go and as you have more of a use case and you have more of a market cap for sigUSD itself, where people actually want the USD because it's doing something for them, it enables them to pay developers, it enables them to buy products, whatever it is, then they're going to want to mint it and hold it, which means that, as the price of ERG goes up, which, we assume is going to happen, then that means that the differential between the average minting price and the price as it goes up will be a larger spread, and the sigRSV person will get more. That stays longer.
Then people potentially would not cash out as often with sigRSV, or at least not as much.
Right. I mean, you will, but the thing is the real advantage is as sigUSD gets, if you go and you look at like the top 10 stable coins, right? Go look at their market cap and see how that has evolved over time. You'll notice like the first year, 2 or 3, they're all below $1 million. They skim along, and then, the major ones, the top ones, suddenly go from like, they're 1 million, then they go up to 20 million, then they go up to, 50 million, then they're 100 million. Now imagine what sigRSV might look like if there was 100 million sigUSD minted and you minted it at $1. You know what I'm saying? So then the price, well, basically you're going to be exchanging like, a couple hundred sigRSV for an ERG, and then ERG is going to be worth $100, right? And so that means you're going to have a truckload of. So, but the thing is that, in the short term, if you're only looking at like a year or 2 or 3, it's not going to happen in that period of time. But if you're looking 10 years out, that's a good bet. But again, it depends. I mean, will you get the very best price? Depending on the economic environment and how low things go or how high things go. It all matters about when you get in. But if you're looking long term, and if you think the ERG is eventually going to be $10, $100, whatever it is, then it's a good play because you just have to wait, and then it's the pitch is going to come.
Yeah, Faye, that was fantastic. That might be the most comprehensive explanation of sigUSD and sigRSV that I've heard. That's awesome. That's great.
And a lot of time thinking about it.
No, it's funny. As you started out this conversation with, there's a big misconception that sigRSV is not, it's a long, but it's not. And then at the end of the conversation, you were like, and if you hold sigRSV for 10 years, it's going to work out.
Right. But, well, the thing is that you have to you really have to kind of think about the audience, because a lot of these folks, are not thinking in 10-year time frames. They're thinking about,
That's
hey,
true.
Sol, why was I in Ergo? I should have been in Sol. It went up to 120, and then they're selling it, right? And they're looking for the next thing. So, that's not most people. Well, I won't say it's most people in the ecosystem. I mean, obviously a Kushti and, an Unreal, and all these folks are in it for the long term.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of folks that are very vocal, and the ones that want exchange listings and all this stuff, and they're really looking at, the profit. And sigRSV is not for those folks. You have to be very patient with it. And be honest with you, when I first bought sigRSV, I paid it was like $1,000 per and now it's like 2,500. So if I had just done that and hold it, I'd be upset right now.
Yeah.
But that said, it's been the best trade I've done in the ecosystem. I bought it back when it was like $1.10, and then we went through that ETH merge.
Yep.
And then I sold it around $4. So that was good, and then I held it, right. I held sigUSD. I used Sigmify and now duck pools and whatever, so so that's playing with price, and that's dangerous.
Do you find yourself interacting with arbitrage opportunities, at least with Spectrum, seeing how sigRSV and sigUSD are sitting on the DEX?
I mean, if you're going to be buying it, then yeah, that's like a standard way that you go about buying sigUSD. My first thing is I mean, no discredit to I think it's a non-real that does the sigUSD.io website. But for me, I always buy it through TokenJ because it's a less of a cost, and I like the way that it works because it doesn't use proxy contracts. It directly interacts with the bank, and so if you miss it, like if the price changes or something during the 12 minutes that you get to actually do a transaction, and because of the way the mining works and so forth, you didn't happen to hit it. It just be as if you never put in the transaction.
Yeah,
whereas if you go and you do it on sigUSD.io, the website, there's a proxy address that gets stuck, then you got to refund it. So it's a little bit more complicated. And honestly, my stuff got stuck, which is how I got into the ecosystem in the first place. I had to get on Telegram to okay, my stuff is stuck now. What do I do? Because they didn't have the manual refund. And so there's so that's another reason why I'm kind of I'd rather use TokenJ, because that way it either goes through or it doesn't, and I don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Yes, nice. TokenJ is also built into Ergo Mobile, which is great. Or there's a link to it. You can go right through there.
That's the way to buy it, right?
And I think what's in Minotaur Wallet, I think that might be just a sigUSD bank direct connection. Maybe I can't remember, but I know you can mint from inside Minotaur.
It can be done. You can also mint from you can use the bank from within the mixer. I mean, there's lots of ways about going about doing it. But as a standard thing, when I buy it, I always go to I go and check in Spectrum, and then I also go and check against TokenJ. And sometimes there's a difference. I mean, you can go and look at, there can be price differentials between the two where, one or the other is a better choice. So you always have to check them because there's a lot of fluctuations sometimes within Spectrum. And so sometimes you get a better deal going through them.
Cafe, one more question before we dive into the dev update. What, so when you're, doing a thing with sigRSV, sigUSD with the bank, how do things like Sigmify and duck pools come into play? Are those kind of tantalizing and tempting to you when you see a 59% sigUSD lending rate sticking out at you on duck pools, or else people asking for sigUSD on Sigmify with 100% interest returns?
Well, yeah. I mean, to me, that's the real kind of question, right? That you have the level of, if you believe in the Ergo ecosystem, you think, hey, the price is going to go up, and you think it's going to be 10, it's going to be $100 or whatever you have in your mind. And so if you go and you do those things, and you're like, okay, well, I mean, I could easily see it going, 2-3 times, and it could happen at any moment. In fact, if you look at the history of Ergo, I mean, it tends to bust really quick, and so you never know when that's going to happen. So you've got that element on it, but my circumstances are a little different. I look at things differently than I think some people, which is I'm always thinking. I call it my Bojangles risk, right? I'm investing for not just myself, but other folks, and I can't lose money. I don't have the choice. I don't have an option, right? I have to replace whatever gets lost. That's the setup that I have, and so I have to be very conscious of the risk. And so, from my perspective, it's like the thing I'm looking at is how do I, no matter what happens, how do I come out on top here where I don't lose money? And I don't think a lot of crypto guys are thinking that way. They're thinking I need life-changing money. But okay, let's think about life-changing money. So if you buy sigRSV and you go and and it goes to 1,000, let's say, and you bought 1,000 ergs worth of sigRSV, and then now you're sitting on probably $2 million, right? What are you going to do at that point? Are you going to hold on to it and think, hey, well, it's it's going to be like Bitcoin, it's going to get to 50 or whatever?
Yeah, right.
Or are you going to say, hey, you know what? $2 million is a good idea. Why don't I go ahead and put that into duck pools or whatever the thing is at the time and get 10% return? Well, if you got $2 million, you're getting 10% return. That's $200,000. That's life-changing money right there, right? So I don't think a lot of folks really you really want to think about where do you want to end up and how do you want to take this ride. You don't think about your first trade. You want to think about the second trade or the fourth trade, and where do you want to be at the end of it? And with that in mind, you make choices about, okay, do I want to? Because I mean, if you had, let's say you had $10,000 right now, and you're getting 100% from SigFi. Well, I mean, how long would that take you? Year to year to year to get to $1 million doing that, right? Well, if it's doubling, you know what I'm saying? So, so some of the interest rates that are being offered there, and then you could even say, hey, every year I'm going to take out whatever I get, and I'm going to use that to spend it. Do dollar cost averaging and get ERG. I mean, so there's lots of ways that you can approach this where you don't end up losing money and then you're investing profits or, whatever it is. So there's lots of ways to think about, how you're going to do this and how you manage your risk so that at the end of it, you don't end up like most crypto investors with nothing.
Yep. And I would suggest to people too, these kind of times are the perfect time to discipline yourself into trading unemotionally. So you see a small spike increase, like we were talking before the camera went live. You would semi-predicted. Your theory was that you're going to see a Christmas pump, and then you were going to see a drawback after that. And so these kind of things that if you stay attuned to, it's a really good practice, I think, to detach yourself emotionally, jump into sigUSD or do some small sells at the top. What you feel is top, you might not hit the top, you might not, but it'll get you there. Because I agree. I said if you don't practice this early on, to get your strategies down, you get to the top, as you said, with $2 million, you're not gonna know what the fuck to do. You're gonna, do I sell? Do I hold? What am I doing? This could go to 4 million. Look at Slumdog Millionaire, right? He rode Doge all the way up to a couple million and then watched it just tank and didn't do anything. And swears this time that he's gonna take profits, on the way up. But I don't believe him. So I think it's about disciplines, Cafe, and you've shown a massive amount of discipline when it comes to this style of trading and investing. Well, I'm envious of it, that's for sure.
I'm not sure how massive it is, but I mean, it does make you. I'm in a situation where I have to think about it, and I talk to people about it, and and sometimes I feel like I'm the odd person out because I got a different focus because of my circumstances. But I do think that if people are going to be involved in the ecosystem, I mean, it's a good idea to have what is the end state? What do I want? Do I want to be in a position where I can possibly fund initiatives within the ecosystem? Do I, where do I want to be? Is it do I want to get a Lamborghini or, whatever it is, but have an idea about what your end game is, because, life-changing money is not actually a lot of money if you think about it. I mean, even if even if you're talking a few $1,000s more on top of your income, that opens up these things, enables you to do things that you currently can't do if you're constrained or you're living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, clear off some
doesn't have to be millions of dollars. years.
Yeah, clear off some debt and pay off most of your house. I mean, that's insanely life-changing right there alone. And
Right.
that might not take much for a couple of years.
Not having to worry about a mortgage, that's life changing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right, let's dive into the dev update. What do you say?
Great.
All right, why don't you take I'll take Kushti. You do Rosen after that.
Okay.
So we've got Kushti, Ergo Protocol, Research and Development. He's thrown a PR with removing unused code. Kushti's been removing a lot of unused code. This is great. Testing 5.19 release candidate, which he did release, I believe, for Node. That's great. Reviewing pull on, I'm not sure what that is. Reviewing Sigma 6 scope, attached a bounty to it, merged EIP 44, and working on subblock-based sidechains proposal. Then we'll do a prototype likely starting from next week. If you guys watched the dev update with Kushti last week, it was really fun. Or maybe it was an AMA, I can't remember. I tried to ask him about sidechains, and he went off on this thing that, when he talks about sidechains, I'm just thinking about subblocks. And then he put it as, no, there's sidechains for privacy, there's sidechains for subblocks, there's sidechains for this whole framework that you can do that will make so many cool things happen in Ergo that might not be available on layer 1 or we want to do that. So that's really, really cool. Excited to see that. Dexy deploying testnet UI for LP for private testing. Redemption is not supported yet there, but for private testing, that's okay. With redemption, public testing will be starting immediately. Gluon private UI testing is going on, public testing soon, and other matters. He reviewed the Hodl token contracts, and that's obvious because Comet came out with their Hodl token. I think they have quite a bit of locked tokens in there, which is great, and made an issue after playing with Mixer a bit. Yes. Whenever I jump on video with Kushti, I stop him and I say, Kushti, like for the AMA, I say, Kushti, can you please stop your bots? Because he'd say, yeah, I got Mixer running here. I got to shut it off. I got this running. Otherwise, his video gets a little too glitchy. It's funny. All right. We got Rosen for you, Cafe.
Okay. So the first part is about the Watcher and the Guard apps. They fixed some of the charts data. They removed some leading zeros from those charts. And they're using, I don't know what a 00 instead of a 24 as hour and health check widgets. I'm assuming that just means that they're instead of the end of the day, it's the beginning of the day. Let's see, there's Cardano multi-wallet support PR for the Rosen app. They fixed a integer issue for some users that were preventing them from signing transactions.
Oh, that was me. That was tough. The first day that they opened Comet, I tried to send over the Comet I run from Greasy Sex, and I got a big int error. So they fixed that. That's fantastic. Send it right over after.
Oh, great. There's RoseNet, which is started simulated NAT networks in a Dockerized environment to simplify testing and hole punching. There's the contract for Rosenbridge. They added authorization for an NFT for the Watcher collateral to prevent the fake collateral attack, and they've replaced the trigger WID list with its digest to bypass the current limitation, which is under review. They took a look at EVM chain integration. They had a meeting with the whole team to wrap up their research and discuss issues with EVM chains. Other than a few small problems, it seems like they understand what needs to be done for adding EVM to the bridge, and they'll start making it happen soon. As far as Bitcoin chain integration goes, research is still ongoing. They're currently investigating and testing different solutions for writing data on the chain and what type of addresses is best to use with Bitcoin. But work it continues.
Can't wait. That'll be fun. Once you can get some Rosen Erg on Ethereum and pay a lot to transfer it around. Can't wait. That'll be good, in all seriousness. All right. Are you can I ask if you're running a Watcher? Are you into that kind of stuff, Cafe?
My situation is difficult to run any kind of infra. So a mixer is probably about what I can handle. Everything beyond that, the level of tech and the way I live my life makes it hard to do.
Gotcha, sir. Gotcha. We got Luivatra with when Paideia beta. Fixed decimal bug in backend, waiting for front end fix. And I bugged him about that. And he's like, I could either just try to break it myself or let the person who knows what they're doing fix it. So we're waiting on that. Crux Finance fixed a bug in LP position endpoint for LP tokens that were sent to wallet, not provided from the wallet itself. Almost done with TX history CSV export, including address labels, token value at TX time, erg price at TX time, and cost basis for tokens. Well, that'll be good at tax time, right? Charts can show USD value of erg now. Great. Subscription backend is getting into an MVP state. It will work in a way where a user loads their account with funds similar to prepaid card. Every subscription cycle funds will be deducted from the balance automatically. Oh, super cool. Okay. Coinly CSV export nearly integrated, allowing for export of wallets in a Coinly CSV format with a click of a button on the site. Very handy.
All right, that brings us to Terahertz. He's organizing a 48-hour real-world event on March 15th to the 17th, which will be streaming the music to THZ Livestream, the website. All profits from the real-world event, which I'm throwing in March, will be added to the LP or used in a Terahertz buyback system. All streaming donations collected will go to fund the launch and further development of Terahertz as a P2P system, unless the donation was otherwise named to a specific music artist or DJ who was playing at the event. Considering the implications of minting a new THC token with the current information, currently in the description it says Swamp Audio, which was the initial name of it.
Yep.
And the name is Terahertz instead. So he's thinking about doing a one-to-one swap with any existing Terahertz tokens, but it might be difficult because you have liquidity providing, and I'm not sure where else Terahertz is used, but you can put it in Babel boxes and some other things, so it might get a little bit more complicated than doing an easy one-to-one search. But he says it might be too difficult, but I would like to explore it a bit before launch or any sort of bridging, yielding, staking, and ideas to clear up any potential confusion about the token. He's also working on a underlying software. It's kind of like a fleet, but it's ErgCaml. It's a different kind of software development environment. And he began working creating a Melange app package. He began refactoring it to React sites using Reason ML React via Melange. And he's begun translating some Sigma Rust C bindings into OCaml. So that might be useful for people that are familiar with that environment. And he also says that he's might be out for a bit. Terahertz might be out a bit doing some personal stuff.
Oh, yeah. Bummer. He needs to take some time. That's for sure. This guy is a definite workaholic. Absolutely amazing amount of stuff that this guy pushes out, kind of thing. Sorry about his grandma. Great. Yeah. All right. Let's see. We have Koutelier with Comet. Hodl COMET is live, which was fun. I locked up what I didn't transfer over Rosen, so that's pretty cool. 10% hodl, so that's quite a big burn on the way out, but we'll see what happens. TVL as of, let's see, that's Wednesday, was 77 million. I think it's in the hundreds of millions now. Made some Telegram bots using ChatGPT and duct tape for alerts on comma hold. He's done a pretty good job with those bots. They do a good job. Pretty cool.
Cool. The next one is Atomic Swap UI. He updated the UI labels using some of the feedback from the demo video. He worked on active swap UI section, which allows users to monitor several ongoing swaps with a widget. He organized the JavaScript code into smaller files, and he's working on developer documentation.
I think that is it, Cafe. I'm scrolling down. 17. Yeah, that's it. Then we go to 18. Dang. Well, I will say, I really appreciate you coming on, Cafe. I didn't know how the sigUSD talk was going to go, but I think it was definitely an invaluable lesson to me, and I think a lot of people listening will connect with that as well. Super cool.
Well, if anyone has any questions or whatever, you can DM me and on Twitter or whatnot. Happy to help. I think there's a calculator, although I noticed that it wasn't exactly as accurate as it used to be, so I might have to update it or something. But I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has about it.
Calculator where?
What's that?
Calculator? What do you mean?
Well, there's a spreadsheet that you can use that if you put in things like, the amount of sigUSD, the sigRSV, the price, the reserves, it will calculate. This is how I was able to tell you, like, okay, if the price is 1250, you'll be able to get 1,228. This is a tool that just it's a spreadsheet. It's not a big deal. You figure out how it works and you put it together. And then you can use this to kind of forecast and say, okay, if I make certain assumptions, how much ERG can I get at the end of the day? If I make certain, what the price might be, how much sigUSD might be minted, what the average cost might be, and then you add that to the reserve. And so it's a little complicated to use, but it will help you to figure out, like, getting a calculator like that is kind of really helpful to kind of just understand how it works.
You have that, or is that somewhere else online?
Yeah,
that we can grab?
it's like a Google Sheet. I think I put it out there like 2 or 3 years ago. It's on Reddit or something.
Fantastic. I'll grab it for you, and I'll put it in the video description as well as on the tweet when we tweet out this thing.
I'll send it to you. That way you don't have to look around.
Fantastic.
I have a link somewhere.
All right. Do you have any Cafe? You have any last words of advice? NF. What is it? Not financial advice. NFA. Financial, not financial advice for anybody, wondering whether now's a good time to utilize sigUSD, sigRSV. Now's a good time to who knows what. What would be your feeling on the matter?
It comes down to what your ideas are about what's going to happen over the next year. Some people think, hey, we've hit all-time highs and it's just going to go up from here. And there's a lot of factors that come into play that might do that. And there are also micro factors, like the fact that we just got done going through developer, and they're talking about bridging to ETH and Bitcoin, and so this will all have an effect on the Ergo ecosystem itself. But you also need to put that within the context of the larger macroeconomic environment, which is, Germany's in trouble. China is having a hard time, putting liquidity in there. They're having deflation. The United States, if you go off yield curve and the SOM rule and some of these other things, there's indication that we could very well be in a recession, coming up here. Everyone says it's different this time, but before every recession, everyone says it's different this time. So you want to be careful, because if there's a recession and the crypto tends to follow the stock market, and if that happens, then you would expect prices across the board for crypto to come down. That's not saying it will. And it's also, ERG has some other factors that might be counter-cyclical. Even if it does happen, we've got reduced emissions, we've got these other things that are coming online. So there's lots of variables going on here. But if you had to make a large bet on like what's likely to happen, it's going to be a tough macro environment. So expect some headwinds.
I think that's pretty good advice, Cafe. I appreciate it, and I think everybody else will too. All right, I'm going to sign off. Thanks so much for joining. You guys can find Cafe, as he said, on x.com, twitter.com, as his namesake, Cafe Bedouin. Feel free to engage. He's given you full permission to engage with him. Please do, everybody. Thanks, Cafe. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.